Gosh, I don't really know what to say. I tried to sift through all the comments and take out all the good and perhaps learn from some of the not as good and use that to help foster my growth and development and preparing me for other challenges. I will do that as I have for the last, actually 9 years. It's a little difficult for me this evening to make what will probably be my last formal presentation before you as a city council. But I do know that because of the very active media network that we have in mid-Michigan here, that you will be kept apprised of my activities as I will be kept apprised of yours. And so at some point, obviously, we will have reasons to commiserate with like issues as we all try to decide how best to make cities work, particularly those that are distressed urban core centers of Michigan's municipalities. My transition schedule for the week will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in Flint. I will be back at City Hall on Friday, which will be my last official day as city manager. That day will allow me to make sure that everything that has to be tied up and dealt with will be so that there's no question about where the city is and where it goes from here. At any time, however, I will be accessible to you or to the staff. I have also directed the deputy city manager to terminate salary payments and PTO accruals effective today, October 7th at 11:59 p.m. since I officially become the EM for the city of Flint tomorrow. Now, I think that since I sent the letter to you on the 11th of September, it was pretty clear to me anyway that I was leaving. It was also pretty clear to me that the city council had to perform what I consider to be its most important function as an elected body. Yes, budgets are important. Financial audits are important. Hiring and purchasing and all of those things are very important. But the one most important decision that you will make as a city council is the recruitment and selection of your chief executive officer. I only got 2 phone calls after that letter went out on the 11th regarding any of my plans or any of the things that I was going to do. I even had occasion to meet with you, Councilman O'Neill, in Boston, and had occasion to talk and had advised you that we needed to talk so that you understood where I was going. I did not hear anything from you. I sent you an email regarding my position on the filling of the interim position, and I never heard from you after that. So could we all communicate a little bit better? Absolutely. There is no absolute finite method of communication that's going to make everybody happy. But at the end of the day, it's the intent. And the intent has always been, and will be going forward for me anyway, to communicate with you as a council as necessary, to communicate with the staff, and to communicate with the residents who, for whatever reason, may feel that there is some need for follow-up on some of the things that have happened, some of the things that we have done, some of the involvement with respect to the business community, the education community, and all of those areas within which I've been a very active part as an ambassador, as a cheerleader, and as a technician for the city of Saginaw. And my body of work will attest to that. For the past 9 years, I spent the bulk of my Monday nights discussing with 4 mayors and many different members of the Saginaw City Council matters of public policy, administrative analysis, citizens' concerns, etc. Also, during those 9 years, we have seen a remarkable turnaround in the city's financial administration, budgeting and reporting, a turnaround from a system that when I got here could not complete timely and accurate financial statements for effective decision-making, revenue collections, disbursements, and audits. It has turned into one that has won 5 international awards for its distinguished budget presentations, and 4 for the achievement of excellence in annual financial reporting. We have also made, as a team, many well thought out and strategically based decisions that have resulted in multi-million-dollar savings to a community that continues to lose revenue, population, housing stock, and tax base. And while the challenges have been many and the resources limited, strong and talented management teams were developed and have worked beside me to bring to you and the mayors and councils that sat before you the most accurate and thorough data and other information critical to legislative decision-making over these past 9 years. And yes, Dr. Thorns was a very integral part of those deliberations and those efforts. And he is to be commended for the work that he did as the Director of Development for the City of Saginaw for the 7 years he served there. When I began my tenure with the City of Saginaw in August of 2004 as the Deputy City Manager and the Interim Finance Director, and later the Interim City Manager in 2005, and finally the City Manager in 2006, I stood before the Mayor and Council at that time and stated that I felt, and this is familiar to some of you, that the problems that the city faces were many, but we could manage our way out of the difficulty. Indeed, we have done just that. Not only have we maintained solvency, and I would argue it's more than somewhat solvent, our operations have been downsized and now look more like a government system that we can afford, given the financial challenges before us. And while we continue to face challenges as a distressed urban core community, the one variable that has separated the City of Saginaw from some other urban jurisdictions along the I-75 South corridor that have fallen into financial emergency management is the form of government that requires the appointment of a trained and experienced city manager with a proven track record managing the entire operations of a full-service city at least the same size and complexity as Saginaw. The people who voted against the charter change, you may recall, back in 2010, that would have restructured Saginaw's governance to mirror that of the cities referenced are to be commended for that foresight and thought beyond the immediacy of special interest gain. As with any political and administrative policy dichotomy, there hasn't been 100% consensus on the management decisions that have been made over the past 9 years. I get that. You get that. It goes without saying. If there was 100% consensus on the business that we had to do, I dare say that the city of Saginaw would be in a much different place, as would any other city. So that comes with the territory. However, taken in their sum total, I can say with a great deal of confidence that as I retire from my position as Saginaw City Manager, I leave the city in a much better place than it was when I first came because of the hard work of a lot of people, because of the dedication and commitment of many who are proud of their heritage to have been from Saginaw or are from Saginaw. And whenever I run into individuals in my travels and tell them that I'm the city manager of Saginaw, only to learn, well, you know, I graduated from Saginaw High back in 1967, or I was an Arthur Hill graduate back in 1985, and so forth and so on. So there is a huge amount of heritage and pride in being from Saginaw. And I think in that regard, we owe it to not only those who have heritage here, but those who are still here and are striving to make Saginaw a better place, to make the most data-based and results-oriented decisions that we can make to make this a better place. I'd like to take just a few moments now to share with you and the public a brief overview and update of our work. Yes, our work. That is me, my management team, and you, the City Council, as a part of that team and as the result of biannual strategic planning sessions since January of 2006, which led to the many policy decisions that were put before you to address the challenges. A more inclusive and detailed report will be forwarded to you between now and your next council meeting. This final report will serve as a benchmark for accomplishments for the outgoing council members and the mayor, and as a starting point for strategic discussions for the incoming council in January, because there is no need to reinvent the wheel, and whoever succeeds me on a permanent basis will find the city in a much better place, and that momentum needs to continue. What you see before you is familiar to most of you because it is the management teams that we have developed over the years to provide services to the now 51,000 residents of the city of Saginaw. And the management team chart is a little bit different from the organization chart because as I have managed the city, I have formulated teams consisting of various departments to assist me in addressing the issues and in keeping the city moving in a direction that allows us the ability to compete for grants, to attract the best talent and employees and others. And that's the team that has helped me ever since we put this together in 2007. We started on it, and every year it's been a continual growing process. So if we begin from that framework, obviously the first issue that we talk about is financial management. The city received the Government Finance Officers Association's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award over the last 5 years. I mention that simply because that's the validation in my mind as a manager that the staff is doing what it needs to do to budget the monies that we receive, as well as the audits that we are obligated to prepare. And while it may seem like a small thing, I think from the standpoint of those of us who do this for a living, it's important to get that feedback to know that despite what people say, we are on the right track, and that is we're managing within our means, and we're doing the things that we need to do to keep Saginaw solvent and to plan for its financial and managerial future. We created processes and reorganized staffing to centralize grants and the Office of Management and Budget. We established that so that there was no confusion and dysfunction in our ability to go after grants to help us provide services. As you recall, from time to time, individuals have come to the podium and asked, did we know about this grant, or why didn't we apply for that grant? Well, we've already researched those grants and know what our limits are and our capabilities and likelihood of success in applying for those. So that has been a major change that has saved the city approximately $40,000 annual and through the elimination of some positions as a result of that. The performance management plan. Management is no good unless you're able to measure the performance. If you're not able to determine where your dollars are going and where your time is being spent, it's a moot exercise. And we've done everything we can to make that accountability paramount to our decision making and to our financial resources and allocations. Now I'm going to ask Mr. Morales to come forward and talk a little bit more about this whole financial management picture because, again, he has been since his selection as the deputy city manager and CFO, the driving force behind the whole financial plan at my direction and as part of my overall vision, and for him to talk a little bit about where we are financially.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I just want to address a few points that the city manager talked about in financial management. The financial management team that we created includes Yolanda Jones, who is the Office of Management and Budget, myself, and also we include Plant Moran in the team. And one of the reasons we did that is because we wanted to have a comprehensive approach to managing the budget and the audit and the spending process. And we've had a number of improvements through that team and also even prior to that team coming into place. One of the things that was mentioned is that the city produces a comprehensive annual financial report, which it did until 2004, and then it stopped. You all know the reason why it stopped is because the city couldn't balance the checkbook. There were 6 months behind minimum. 2 audits were submitted 6 months and 8 months late. We don't submit audits late anymore, and we now produce a comprehensive annual financial report, which is far more transparent than the standard financial report that was being submitted. That's a lot of work, and now we are getting the audit prepared much quicker than we were just submitting a standard financial report. The centralized grant process is something that that I had been talking about since I came to the city as well. Something that we did in my previous position, and now it is coordinated under the Office of Management and Budget. And I wouldn't necessarily say we were missing a lot of opportunities for additional funding, but we weren't necessarily complying with all of the issues that needed to be done for the money we were provided. I could tell you the way that it used to be, I know there were some grants that did not have quarterly reports submitted for years and years, and we don't have that anymore. And we also save money from the structure we have now. Proactive financial management is listed in the item, in the first item, collaboration of fiscal services and OMB. One point with that is that we are addressing financial issues when we prepare the budget. A lot of places that you go will put revenue in or will put lower expenditures in to balance the budget because the council is required to submit a balanced budget. We do not do that. We identify funding and revenue sources that match with our expenditures, and if not, recommendations are brought to council for reductions. And one item that we have not listed in financial management that I would like to point out is the leverage of technology to provide better customer service. And it was a long time coming in the city, and there were a lot of other issues that had to be tackled first, but our citizens can now pay bills online. We didn't even accept credit cards till a few years ago, and you can now pay property taxes, water bills, income tax online with the use of a credit card. And I believe that the city of Saginaw also does one of the best jobs in providing accountability and transparency information to our citizens through the use of our webpage. That's a requirement under EVIP from Governor Snyder, but if you go out and look at some of the other websites and what other cities and counties are providing, I think ours is far and away above what other cities are doing.
I just skipped a slide here and I can't get back. Help. 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 No, it's on. Yeah, I skipped one. I hit that. See how quick they come to bail me out here. All right, well, no, that wasn't it. Yeah. Management and efficiency. You've heard a lot of talk about that. That was one of the teams that I established because the management and efficiency team was put together following the completion of the staffing and efficiency study performed by consultants. And it was determined that city staff could perform the implementation given the abilities and talents of the management team. The team and city department heads implemented several recommendations from the Plant and Moran Staffing and Efficiency Plan citywide. This generated savings in excess of $2 million annually. I point this out because at the presentation that Councilman O'Neill and I attended a couple weeks ago, what we were talking about in our presentation to city managers from all over the country and from 19 other countries was the ability to balance the wants of elected officials and the public over the realities of what a city can afford to provide. And one of the presenters was from a place called Washoe County, Nevada, which encompasses Lake Tahoe and some other areas where, you know, you'd think that a lot of the resources that they would need to operate there would be available. But they have the same problem: lack of resources, demand for services. The very first thing they did was went out and did a complete and comprehensive study of their organization. They did that because they needed an objective look at every operation and every part of their operation and every person in their operation and what they're doing. The very same thing we did, and saved in the process about $2 million annually once we implemented the savings or the study and realized the savings. I bring that up simply because, as I recall, there was a lot of questions about why go through that and why, you know, we pay the manager to do all of those things and everything, so he should do it and so forth. Well, but it's basically more objective as a change or an organization development exercise if you get someone in there to take a look at it from top to bottom, make the recommendations, and then it's incumbent upon the decision makers to make those changes, to make those difficult decisions. And I stand before you tonight saying we've made some very broad sweeping changes in Saginaw. We've made some very difficult decisions. And they haven't always endeared me to people. And they haven't always endeared people to other people who were endeared to me because of what we did. It was guilt by association in so many ways. But at the end of the day, when we look back on all of that, we now have an organization that through that data-driven approach that we employed some years ago, we're in a better place now as it relates to our ability to maintain systems. Again, that wasn't all my doing. I had the vision and certainly had the stamina and the drive to make it happen. But a lot of people were responsible for getting us to that point. And this is all familiar stuff to you guys. I know you understand that because we've talked about it during our budget cycles. We've talked about it during our strategic planning and so forth. The point is it worked. And we're where we are now because we did that. And we made the decisions we needed to make given what we knew the financial outlook was going to be like from our 5-year financial plan and some other things that we've used and talked about as a team and come up with ways in which to address those issues. But once you do that, you got to measure it. Again, the whole idea of where are the dollars going and where are the most effective uses that are happening, where are they able to be measured? And that's a project that Yolanda has been very intimately involved in. And the city of Saginaw is one of 4 cities in the state of Michigan that utilizes a city stat system to address long-standing issues and problems on a real-time basis. And I thought about having her come and explain that to you, but I think suffice it to say that it's because of these measuring tools that when we bring you a recommendation regarding our budget, that we're confident that that reflects the most effective use of the resources in the area as organized and as we go forward. That's resulted in about a $200,000 savings. The other cities in Michigan that utilize this system are the cities of Warren, Lansing, and Flint.